deal, Lannister lion. Woo!
Welcome back to part 2 of the Lannisters' epic history. We had just talked about Tywin Lannister, and now we're going to continue the Lannister legacy with Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion, and Myrcella, Tommen, and Joffrey. So let's start with Jaime and Cersei Lannister. So this is the deal. They've always been like inseparable ever since birth. So one time when they were kids, like somebody, like a servant, like caught them like fooling around, you know? And then like word got back to their mom and she was like, all right, Jaime, you gotta go live on the other side of Casterly Rock now. They totally split him up. So anyways, Jaime, when he's 11, gets shipped off to the Craig Halls to be squired. 2 years later, when he's 13, he wins his first tourney melee. When he's 15, he's knighted by like Sir Arthur Dane on like the battlefield, okay? Like, cause he's like killed some motherfuckers at this point at 15 years old. And on his way back from the battle, he stops in King's Landing and Cersei tells him while she's there that like their dad, Tywin, is totally gonna marry him off to like Lysa Tully, Catelyn's sister. And she's like, okay, so I got a plan so you don't have to get married to Lysa Tully. And he's like, okay, well, what is it? Well, she ends up seducing him that night. They, I believe, have sex for the first time. She finally gives up that pussy. And so now he has to do whatever she says because, like, you know, that's how that works, I guess. So at this point, Cersei believes that she is going to be engaged to Rhaegar. Like, everyone thinks that, like, that marriage is going to happen. She thinks it's kind of set in stone, even though later we learn that it's not. She thinks she's going to be in King's Landing for forever. So she tells Jaime, she's like, I got this plan, okay? If you get inducted into the Kingsguard, then you'll never have to marry another bitch. And then you'll be here at King's Landing, and I'll be here at King's Landing, and we can continue our relationship while you're here. So he's like, okay, I'll do it. And of course, Cersei's plan backfires like a motherfucker because none of her plans ever work out. Like, she thinks like she's this master tactician, like she's like Tywin with boobs or something, and she's totally not. And all of her plans always fail, including this one.
Women.
So like a moon's turn later, Jaime is knighted into the Kingsguard, and then he's like super pumped. They're like, oh, our plans are like totally working. But then King Aerys totally like poops on the whole thing and is like, hey, by the way, now that you're part of the Kingsguard, you can just go back to King's Landing and not participate in this tournament that you totally like came here to participate in. So it finally dawns upon Jaime that Aerys raised him to the Kingsguard not as an honor, but as a slight towards his own father because, again, he's robbing Tywin of his heir. And he's like, damn it all. And the whole thing doesn't even work because later on they find that Rhaegar and Cersei aren't going to get married, and then Tywin ends up resigning his hand and going back to Casterly Rock, taking Cersei with him. So now Jaime is stuck at King's Landing. He can't have a wife, he can't have a title, he's just stuck there, and his sister is like back in Casterly Rock, and they never know if they'll ever see each other again. Now let's take a moment to focus on Jaime Lannister, and I feel like people unnecessarily hate on him all the time, and let me explain to you why he's a better man than you think he is. First off, Jaime's had to deal with some fucked up shit, alright? Like, he's witnessed a lot of terrible things, and that will fuck someone up really bad, okay? One time, when Jaime was in the Kingsguard under King Aerys, he and this other guy had to guard the door while Aerys was brutally raping his wife, Rhaella, and he wanted to stop it, but the other dude was like, nah, brah. And it really messed him up inside because there was nothing he could do. He feels like he has to go dead inside all the time because he's forced to witness like all these really messed up atrocities under King Aerys. So Jaime really does have a good side, but he has to bury it so he can do his job, which his sister tricked him into doing with her vagina. And Jaime also witnessed like Ned's dad being cooked alive in his armor while like Ned's brother like had to strangle himself accidentally in some fucked up torture device, okay? Like, he's seen a lot of awful, awful things. He's seen like hundreds of people burned to death, I'm pretty sure, and that'll mess you up. Years later, during the events of the War of the Usurper, also known as Robert's Rebellion, Jaime overhears that Aerys is planning to burn down the entire city of King's Landing with wildfire because because Ares knows that his number is like coming up pretty quick. And he would rather like burn everyone alive than let Robert have King's Landing because he was super nuts at this point. And also, I think Ares thought that like he wouldn't be like killed by the wildfire, that it would like turn him into a dragon or something, because again, he was fucking out of his mind. So when Tywin enters the city and starts sacking King's Landing, Ares tells Jaime to go and cut his dad's head off and bring him back his own father's head, while he's also giving these orders out to like the pyromancers to like burn everything. But then Jaime ends up like killing the messenger who's like gonna tell the pyromancers to burn everything. Then he goes back to kill fucking Ares to stop him from telling anyone else to go burn down the entire city. I mean, Jaime really is the savior of King's Landing. If it wasn't for him, it would have been burnt into the earth forever. It would, like, no one would have survived. But nobody knows this. Like, nobody knows that Jaime's actions really saved everyone.
What did the Mad King say when you stabbed him in the back? I never asked. Did he call you a traitor?
He said the same thing he'd been saying for hours. Burn them all.
And Jaime did the right thing. Like, he killed this super fucked up king who he had watched like torture and murder like tons of people. In his opinion, Jaime did the right thing and considers his act of killing Ares the finest thing that he has ever done. And what does he get for it? Everyone calls him the Kingslayer all the time. They're like, oh, Kingslayer, and like talk shit to him like he's some fucking asshole, when he pretty much saved freaking everyone.
You are no knight. You have forsaken every vow you ever took.
So many vows. They make you swear and swear. Defend the king, obey the king. Obey your father. Protect the innocent, defend the weak. And what if your father despises the king? What if the king massacres the innocent? It's too much. No matter what you do, you're forsaking one vow or another.
He's so confident in his decision to kill Ares that he puts up with it. He's just like, whatever, you can call me Kingslayer all you want. I know I did the fucking right thing. And he did! And he did! He did the right thing!
Sometimes you're a dick, sometimes you pay the bills.
And let's not forget, Jaime totally had the opportunity to crown himself king or to crown his father, but he didn't. People even suggested it to him, and he was like, no, guys, let's just wait until Ned and Robert get here and we'll figure it out later. You know, like, he's a good fucking guy. And you want to know how Ned rewarded Jaime for, like, doing the right thing? Well, he told Robert that, like, he should be stripped of his white cloak and at least made to go to the Night's Watch for killing the king and breaking his oath as a Kingsguard member. Like, Ned is such a stickler, for Christ's sake. Like, fucking Jaime did the right thing. It may have been outside of the rules, but he did what was necessary. And Ned is like, fuck this guy. This explains why Jaime is seen in the show as immediately being a dick to all the Starks.
Well said.
But then Jon Arryn counsels Robert and says, hey, give him a pardon, let him stay on as a Kingsguard member, whatever. So Robert ends up listening to Jon Arryn, keeps him on, but gives Jaime the name the Kingslayer. And another thing, Jaime has always been cool to Tyrion, unlike Tywin and Cersei. I mean, he's not that bad of a guy. He recognizes that Tyrion is a cool motherfucker. I think Jaime is unfairly disliked by the people of Westeros, and I think he's unfairly disliked by viewers and readers. He's actually a really good guy, but he has to make all these morally complex decisions all the time, and it's like, you can't always be the good guy.
Yeah, but he had sex with his sister.
Well, nobody's perfect. Now, Jaime is arrogant and narcissistic, but he is a great sword fighter as well and considers himself to be an artist with a sword. And this is one of the only things that he truly cares about. In fact, he thinks that there are only 3 men in Westeros that could beat him.
I suppose I should be grateful that your vanity got in the way of your recklessness.
And unlike the rest of his family, including Tyrion, Jaime is totally not power hungry in any way, shape, or form, okay? Even Tyrion wants to be Hand of the King. Jaime does not want to be king. Jaime don't want to be the Lord of Castle Rock. Jaime don't give a fuck about that shit. All Jaime wants to do is have a sword in his hand and be killing motherfuckers on the battlefield. He wants to die a warrior's death, and that's all he wants, you know? He wants that, and he wants to be with his sister. And you know what? Like he said, you can't choose who you love. And I mean, yeah, it's messed up, but at the same time, he genuinely does care about her. He's never even been with another woman. And can Cersei say the same thing? I don't think so. Cersei's been with several other dudes and women, all right? So give him a break.
Yeah, but he banged his sister.
It's true. I They can't refute that. So as you know, after Cersei gets with Robert Baratheon and she's back in King's Landing with Jaime, they continue their affair and Jaime ends up fathering her 3 children, Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella. Which brings us to Cersei Lannister. So as I was saying earlier, Cersei thinks that she's some master tactician. She always goes on about how she wishes she was born with a dick because she'd be better at doing this shit than Jaime or Tyrion or her dad. Like, she really does believe that she's like this super smart person who's just like running a game, when in fact she is just like a total asshole and completely mismanages things because she doesn't have any patience whatsoever. She's all wildfire and she will like totally just burn anyone, doesn't matter who crosses her. Cersei Lannister has no self-control whatsoever, and that always ends up biting her in the ass. She is her own worst enemy, by far. So why is Cersei such a bitch? Well, in addition to being Tywin's daughter and being rich and pretty, she also received this fucked up prophecy in her childhood that forever haunted her and like twisted her decision making throughout the rest of her life. So Cersei hears about this witch woman named Maggie the Frog that totally does prophecies. Her and her girlfriend go down there and demand their futures be told, even after Maggie the Frog is like, go away. So then Maggie's like, okay, well, you want a prophecy? Here you go. She tells Cersei that she's gonna marry the king. She tells Cersei that she's gonna have 3 kids and that the king's gonna have 16 kids, that all of her kids are gonna wear crowns of gold and shrouds of gold, and that she will outlive all of her children. And then she tells her that another more younger, beautiful queen one day will cast her down and take all she holds dear. Just to sum it up for you, Cersei was prophesied that she's gonna outlive all of her children and that her little brother is going to choke the life out of her. So that'll mess you up. So what's so tragic about all this is, again, Cersei gets everything wrong. Like, she believes that Marjorie's going to be the younger queen that's going to take her shit, when in reality it's probably Daenerys, hopefully. And also, she hates Tyrion because she believes that he is the Valonqar. Like, she thinks that he's the little brother that's going to choke her out. But when in reality, it could be Jaime. Like, Jaime's got a good running because he's also her little brother because she was born first.
I'm glad I don't have a family.
I thought Packard Bell was your dad. So that's pretty much it for Cersei. She ended up having to marry Robert, and at first she was kind of excited about it, but then obviously things went south. She's been bitter about it. She's been bitter her whole life that, like, she doesn't have a dick. Like, she's like, I deserve to be the man in this household, even though she's totally an ineffectual leader. And, like, she wants power so bad, but then when she gets it, she doesn't know what to do with it, you know? I mean, she's just completely ridiculous. Like, and she surrounds herself with people who, like, don't tell her the truth, like, because she doesn't want to deal with hard truths. Like, she's just the worst. She's the worst leader ever.
Penis envy.
Penis envy. And not only that, not only is she a total bitch, but she's like a terrible mom.
He doesn't listen to me.
It's hard to put a leash on a dog once you've put a crown on its head.
Which brings us to her children. So Tommen and Myrcella have really benefited from, like, nobody really giving a shit about them, I guess. I don't know. Like, Cersei's, like, kind of put all her eggs in the Joffrey basket and kind of doesn't, like, deal with Myrcella and Tommen nearly as much, which is a good thing for them because they're not quite as fucked up. But Joffrey, on the other hand, has been completely ruined and is totally fucked up by his parents.
Someday, you'll sit on the throne and the truth will be what you make it.
Well, I should say one parent, because he never really had a father figure. Both of his fathers have essentially rejected him, which kind of makes me feel bad for him, but at the same time, he's such a little sadistic shithead that, like, you really can't feel that bad for him. For example, let me tell you a story that illustrates how messed up Joffrey is. So when he was a little kid, he heard that this cat in the kitchens was pregnant. So he went down there, opened up Mama Cat's belly, murdered her, took out her unborn kittens, brought one of the kittens to Robert and was like, check out this kitten. And Robert was so disgusted that he slapped the shit out of Joffrey, slapped out 2 of his fucking baby teeth, and was just like, what is wrong with you? Like, that's totally some shit little serial killers pull, you know? It's not good. It's not a good sign, killing animals at an early age.
Oh, I hate that little shit.
And that's one of the reasons why Robert Baratheon really kept a distance from his kid, you know, well, his supposed kid. So now let's look at a highlight reel of some of Joffrey's worst atrocities.
You gotta kill this switch. You're from the 70s, but I'm a 90s bitch. I don't care. I love it. I don't care. I love it.
understand the wailing of women.
So now let's talk about the littlest Lannister, Tyrion. He's a total fan favorite, and he's had a crazy life, so let's get into it.
Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you.
What the hell do you know about being a bastard?
All dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes.
So when Tyrion was born, he immediately bummed out his father Tywin and his sister Cersei because he killed Joanna on the way out. Shit happens in childbirth back then. Shit happens in childbirth today. And like, they never forgave him for that. First of all, Tywin never smiled after Joanna's death. His brother Kevin has said that like the best part of Tywin died when Joanna did. Cersei fucking hated him. Like, there's this time when Oberyn Martell and his sister Aaliyah, they came to visit the Lannisters at Casterly Rock, and then like Jaime and Cersei were 9 years old when Tyrion was born. So Jaime and Cersei go to show those two, like, the new baby Tyrion. And Cersei starts, like, twisting Tyrion's little baby dick until, like, Tyrion starts crying. And then, like, Jaime, like, stops her.
Why did Cersei twist his penis?
Well, Cersei, like I said, is a total bitch. And she also hates him because he killed her mom. So in this world, and in real-life medieval times, if Tyrion had been born to a low-born family, he may have been abandoned, he may have been killed, because back then, like, people couldn't, like, make allowances for dwarves. Like, people had kids to help them do stuff, okay? And, like, if you couldn't do stuff, like plow the fields, then you were fucked, all right? But because Tyrion was born to the rich Lannisters, he was allowed to live. But also because he was born to the Lannisters and allowed to live, they feel like he's shamed their family and that he's like this walking embarrassment to them, you know? And it's like, and can you imagine Tywin, who thinks he's like the biggest badass on earth, and then like his seed, like he brings forth a dwarf, like his son is like this misshapen dwarf? Like that is so fucking embarrassing to Tywin, okay? Like, he fucking hates that. If you paid attention earlier, Tywin does not like being embarrassed, and he feels like Tyrion is a total embarrassment. So, like, Tyrion had just no chance in this life with his family. And the only person who's been kind to him is Jaime, and, like, that's it. Like, everybody else has just been such an asshole to him. But I love the fact that he has a fucking great attitude despite that. Like, that's so amazing. And he's like, well, you know what? Fuck you. I still know that I'm fucking smart, and I still know that I have a purpose, and that I can be helpful. And Tyrion is the only Lannister that isn't some narcissistic sociopath. He has empathy for other people.
Why do you want to help him?
I have a tender spot in my heart for cripples, bastards, and broken things.
And because of this, he has a unique perspective where he understands all sorts of different types of people in society. Being highborn, he's had access to education and all this sort of great stuff that's like made him smarter to where he can understand like highborn people, politics, complexities, things like that.
Let's do something I'm good at.
What are you good at?
I happen to be a great judge of character.
He understands the plight of like lower-born people and like fucked up people. I mean, he gets it. Like, he has sympathy. So here's a couple little side stories about Tyrion that you may not know. One of them being that when he turned 16 years old, and in that world you're a man when you're 16, he wanted to go on this big trip that all the other Lannisters have done, where you get to travel to all the 9 free cities and like see all this great stuff, because he's totally an anthropologist and he loves seeing all these different cultures. He loves to learn.
Where's your sense of wonder? The greatest structure ever built.
But then his dad was like, well, I'm not going to let you go to any of these 9 cities because he's embarrassed of him. He doesn't want to parade him around all over the place. So instead, Tywin's like, you can be in charge of all the cisterns and drains in Casterly Rock instead of going on this awesome journey. And Tyrion's like, God damn it, you got me. But then Tyrion shows his father up by like having the best fucking drainage Casterly Rock has ever seen. Like, when he's in charge of the cisterns, like, he does such a good job that like shit's never flowed better, and Tywin still never gives him props for it. And this is just another reason why I love Tyrion. Instead of being pissed that his dad put him in charge of all the sewers, he does a really fucking good job at it just to show him up and to be like, fuck you. Like, that's so awesome. Another little story. The reason that Tyrion isn't married isn't because, like, Tywin hasn't tried to get him married off. Nobody wants their daughter to marry Tyrion. Even the Florents and, like, the Freys have turned him down, which is, like, really sad. And that's why Tyrion's always involved with whores, because, like, no one wants to marry him, and, like, he's been taught that nobody would like him anyways. The only reason any girl would like him is for his money. That's what he's been taught by Tywin, you know? His whole family has told him that, and it's so sad. The reason that I love Tyrion is that despite the fact that he's so downtrodden, he still has self-worth. Like, he knows that he is worth something and that he's a smart motherfucker and that he has something to give back to society. And god damn it, that's so awesome. We could all take a lesson from Tyrion.
Everything I know about life, I learned from Game of Thrones.
Pretty much. Like, there's a lot that you can learn from Game of Thrones about life and personalities and people. That's what makes it so interesting. So in conclusion, the Lannisters are the family that plays the Game of Thrones the hardest. They're a power player, they got tons of money to back themselves up with, and they are groomed from birth to do whatever it takes to secure the Lannister name, okay? Like, they are all for their house. They'll fucking lie, cheat, steal, betray, backstab, kill fucking babies, okay? They'll do whatever it takes. And man, what a shitty society where the people who are just the most depraved and willing to do what it takes are the ones that are gonna, like, win in the end. Oh wait, that's still going on today in our society. And where does George R.R. Martin get his ideas for such complicated political plots of treachery and deception? Well, try real life. George R.R. Martin is a huge history buff. He's loved these books called The Accursed Kings, which is like all about the War of the Roses from England, which is a real life thing that happened, which is even more fucked up than the shit that happens in Game of Thrones. It's
Real life?
Yeah, real life. It's so crazy, like that we're worse than the people in like Game of Thrones.
So there really were dragons?
Next time on Game of Thrones Epic History, we're going to cover the Stark family. So, you don't want to miss out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and if you didn't know, we're doing a Kickstarter. It's going from now through May 12th, and we're super excited to announce that we reached our first goal. We got a stretch goal going on right now, and if you love what we're doing, feel free to go check out our Kickstarter and donate to get more videos like this more often.